Welcome back to the Grand Hotel, actually, on Mackinac Island. We are up here broadcasting from the Greater Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference. And we have with us right now Dr. Steve Rapundalo from MichBio. How you doing, Steve?
Good morning. I'm doing very well.
You know, before we get into subject matter here, let's talk a little bit about this. I don't want to say eerie, but it's a really different experience this year.
It's a little surreal.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who came up here, you didn't know what quite to expect.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't gathered in 2 years. There's this little bug going around. That's not so nice. And people are rightly, at least hesitant, if not somewhat scared.
Well, in caution, everybody's erring on the side of caution right now, and you have your face mask on, so you know I've had both my vaccinations and the booster, so pretty clean, I think. So anyway, let's talk about MichBio. Explain to everybody what MichBio is.
So MichBio is short for the Michigan Biosciences Industry Association, and we are the trade association that represents the interests of the pharmaceutical and the biotechnology companies, the medical devices and equipment, the diagnostics and the testing, all the agricultural, environmental, industrial biotech. So you think about renewable fuels and renewable chemicals that start from feedstock. We're all the information technology, both in the healthcare setting, so your wearable apps, your telehealth, but also before you get to the health system, it's all these fancy words like genomics and things that you hear out there with DNA ancestry and all that. And then lastly, we're all the distribution of all those different products and services. So it's a very large industry. We've always been top 15 in the country by size. We are the Pfizers, the Strykers, the Terumos, on down to the 1-2 person startups that are innovating the next generation of treatments and technologies. So
you would work closely, I would imagine, also with universities in the tech transfer space? Absolutely.
Those are the critical sort of engine that drives commercialization and innovation of technologies. You know, a lot of people think that drugs are discovered in the university labs and then companies do what they do and then it hits the market. And they don't understand that commercialization, especially the company phase, is so long, so expensive. And the discoveries in the universities are merely the very first step of a very, very long process. In some cases, in cases of drugs, 10 to 15 years before, if they get to market, and only 1 in 40 gets to market.
Steve, you shed a little light on the fact that we really did come up with a vaccine in kind of exponentially fast time.
Well, and it means even more for me personally, because prior to MichBio, I spent 20 years in drug discovery and development, working on drugs like Lipitor. People probably see the ads for Eliquis. I started that program in the 90s. To see what the likes of Pfizer's and Moderna's and J&J's and others have done with the vaccine is unfathomable, quite frankly. I don't think we ever dreamed that we could do that in such short order. Essentially what transpired is that traditional drug development is very sequential. You have to pass certain hurdles and milestones and checkpoints, especially regulatory, before you can go to the next step. Here, what happened was a lot happened in parallel. And people rethought, well, how can we do clinical trials while we're still figuring out the manufacturing and the scaling up? Because to make a small batch is one thing. To make a huge batch for the world is quite another. And so they basically put a full court press in each of these companies to figure out where they could make efficiencies while at the same time preserving safety and compliance and all those things that are needed before a drug can get emergency use authorization, much less full approval.
Well, it happened, fortunately, in good stead. Will this become then the new modus apparandai, you think?
That's an excellent question, and it's obviously being posed to drug companies as we speak. And I think you'll see some of that continue. There will be rethinking of how, but each case, each type of drug is going to be different. What works, what could have been done with a vaccine may not necessarily translate to some other treatment. And then we got this whole new horizon of gene therapies that are coming on, where we're tinkering with DNA. And that's a whole different modality that all bets are off at the moment.
That would, I would hope, be a little longer in process.
Oh, well, but those things have been going on for years. I know I've heard people say, oh, well, you know, I don't want to take the COVID vaccine because the mRNA technology is so new. No, that's been working on for the last 20 years. It's just that it all came to a head at the right time for the right reason, and worked.
Well, listen, what you guys do is fascinating, and more importantly, it has huge economic ramifications. So, Dr. Steve Rapundalo, thanks for joining us from MichBio.
Thanks for having me. Delighted.
All right, buddy. You are watching us on the island at the Grand Hotel for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual Policy Conference. I'm Chris Holman. Michigan Business Beat is what you're watching on the Michigan Business Network.